Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matthew Boyle from LanguageCardGames.com, and it's such a pleasure for me to be here with you today, sit with you at the table, and talk a little bit about Othertongue 3, Rise of the Steampunks. I've been a little bit busy lately, so I haven't been able to upload as many videos as I would have liked, but it's a pretty relaxed day here in South China, and nothing would give me greater joy than to, in a relaxed way, talk through some of the latest cards and explain how the game works. There's been a lot of buzz surrounding this game, Othertongue 3, and it was even featured in an online steampunk magazine for steampunk enthusiasts. So it's been a lot of fun to make, a lot of fun to create, and I'm going to explain it to you a little bit today. So you can see on the top are the three Othertongue games. Othertongue currently has three expansion decks or sets, but they're all fully compatible. The first one is called Spellbound, and it was a fantasy-themed deck. The second edition was called Word Factory Inc., and that was a science fiction-themed deck. And the third is the one we're going to talk a little bit more about today. That is a steampunk-themed set. And each deck has different categories of words that players must speak, and also different linguistics categories that people must give examples, words that fit the category. I was trying to think recently of a better way to explain how this game works, or a different way to explain how it works, a very concise and effective way. And I thought recently to compare it to some other card games. So let's look at the Pokemon card game. In the Pokemon card game, you activate your card or attack using energy. In Magic, the trading card game, Magic the Gathering, you use land or mana to activate and power your cards and attack. And another example would be the Star Wars card game, which I also really like to play, and that one you use force to activate your cards and power your cards and do battle. Well, in the Othertongue games, what is your way to activate your cards and use them and battle? That is your knowledge of your target language. You are going to speak different types of vocabulary, different types of sentences, different linguistic examples or terms in the language that you are studying. And that could be any language. Whatever your target language is of study, that is what you can use to activate your cards in battle. And you could just choose one language to use each game, but it's really up to the players. If you want to use 2 or 3 different languages to power your cards and fight, that's fine. Or maybe you want to handicap a player. If I'm battling a guy who's maybe fluent in his target language, but I'm just learning mine, maybe we have to handicap that in some way. Maybe he has to use a language that he's only starting to learn when he battles me. Or maybe I can use more than one language, or maybe I can use a target language of mine only sometimes, and I can use, and I'm kind of rambling. Let me just get to the point that you can kind of customize the cards that you use and also the languages you use to make the gameplay very fair and balanced, so even a beginner could potentially have a very good game against an expert. It's all in how you decide to set up your decks and which languages you allow each other to use to make it fair. So the cards, each card has a name and then a color band which shows what element it belongs to: earth, water, air, fire, or metal. And then it also has a category. So there are characters, there are objects, there are locations, there are what I call happenings, and then below that is the rule text, which will show you what kind of word you need to say in your target language in order to be able to use the cards. So let me introduce some of the cards in the third set, Othertongue 3, Rise of the Steampunks. I don't think I ever had the chance to do that before, so let me explain to you how some of them work. Some of them are quite simple, but some of the cards I've created for this set really expand the possibilities in this game. A good example of that is the first one here called Ideas. So for this card, when you play it, you can actually choose a new category of words. And then every turn, if you can say a word that belongs to that category, you can earn a point. So this is a really neat one because it allows you to choose a category that you think you could speak words in, but you think your opponents could not speak words in. And then that's going to be a way for you to rack up the points. Oh, by the way, you win this game if you have more points at the end. That's basically how you win. And you will fight to destroy each other's cards, activate and deactivate each other's cards, and add and subtract points from each other's cards. And at the end, when there's no more cards left to draw, whoever has the more points wins. This second card here, he will let you search a dictionary to find a term or a translation that you're looking for. So imagine if this card was out and I didn't know any words in that category, I could use this card to look up some. This one asks you to give an example of an occupation in your target language, and if you can do that, you can activate or deactivate cards. If we turn a card sideways, that's a deactivation. That means we can't use it for the time being, but it's not fully destroyed. And if we activate a card, that means we turn it up, and that means we can use it. This one, again, because it's related to the steampunk genre, and we have a card here that talks about early flying machines, like hot air balloons, gliders, ornithopters. So some of the cards in these decks are quite specific and at an intermediate or even an expert level. But there are some simple ones too, like this one. This one just asks you to translate a noun, verb, or adjective on another card in order to destroy it. So that's pretty simple to do. And this last one here, I really like. It lets you shut down another person's language for one turn. So let's say someone who's battling you is really good with, I don't know, Mandarin Chinese. You can deactivate this card in order to prohibit them from using Mandarin Chinese on their next turn. But they could use another language if possible. And then later, maybe you use this card, you can get her turned back up and use her again. So that explains some of the cards in Othertongue 3. Now I'd like to show you a quick little mock battle, and I'm going to move these out of the way. So I recommend when you first get your deck that you customize your own mini deck rather than using all the cards available, which could bog you down. It takes a lot of time to learn which each card can do. So I recommend you pick out a few that you like and you think you can activate and use those to build a mini deck first and use that to battle another person's mini deck. So maybe you could pick out 10 cards that you want to use. Just to show you really quickly, I'm just going to do an extremely small mini deck. I'm just going to do 3. So let's say this player has 3 cards and this player has 3 cards. And you can play with 2 or more players. You can play with any number of cards, really. But the more cards you use, the longer the game's going to be. It can get pretty involved. Because again, it's at a complexity level like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon. If you're not familiar with any of those games, you're probably going to have a tough time to learn how to play this. You can do it, but there's definitely a learning curve to it. This game's more for experienced players. And I have more simple casual games at languagecardgames.com as well, if this is a little bit too much for you. Okay, so we have our decks. Let's say, usually we have a starting hand, but these decks are so small, so let's not do that. I'm just going to draw a card to start, and I can choose to keep it in my hand or put it down. But generally we want to put it down because any cards we have down are worth points for us. This is worth 1 point just from having it down. And this card lets me search my deck for a character, if I can say an early flying machine. So, I could give you an example. I know Ruichicho in Mandarin Chinese is hot air balloon. If I could say that, then I can look into my deck, find a character, and put it down. And then this has to become deactivated to pay for that little maneuver, and this card goes back. And then I could potentially use her against my opponent, but I'm not sure if I want to use her yet because she might have to be deactivated, so I'm going to kind of wait and see what my opponent will do. And I end my turn. Now the other player can go, and they play the card Ideas. And they want to choose a category of words that I really know nothing about. Let's say I didn't know many medicine names in Chinese. Maybe they know that because they're my friend and they're used to playing with me, and they know I don't know many medicines. Or maybe many plants. So let's say they choose a plants category, for example, and because they know a lot of flowers and trees and stuff, and I don't. So they choose that, give an example of it, and they can add some points to their cards. And I usually supply some dice when I sell these games. You can use the multi-sided dice as a little point counter. I don't know where those are right now. Oh, here's some. When I sell these games, I will send you some multi-sided dice and a single-sided dice. So these we can use to rack up points on and keep track of the points. And these we roll for chance. Sometimes in this game you'll have to roll for chance to see if cards are protected or destroyed. Alright, and that might end their turn. So now I draw my next card, and it's a weapon. I need a character to use it, and I also need to say a noun. I need to translate a noun or verb or adjective on the card that I want to try to destroy. So this card has the word ideas on it. If I can translate that word, let's just say, for example, let's say I couldn't. Let's say I can't translate any words on this card. Then I'm not going to be able to use my gun, and my turn would be over. Back to them. Okay, now this guy, he lets us look up words. So maybe this player would like to look up some words that fit this category to get some more ideas, and then ratchet up the points a little further. So right now, this player's turn ends, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And I've got 1, 2, 3 points. Alright, now it's my turn, and I've got no cards to draw, but he does, so we're going to continue. Because it's not until all the cards are gone that the game is over. So maybe I find on this card a word that I can translate, and I can fire my pistol to destroy it, so that would be discarded. And then maybe I want to shut down his language so that he can't speak it in the next turn using that card. Okay, and then the play passes to them. Okay, this one asks you to say jobs and occupations. But now this player, let's say their primary target language has been shut down by this card, and there's no other language they can speak, then they wouldn't be able to use these cards in this turn, so their turn would effectively be over. And now the game is over because we both have no cards to draw, so we tally up the points. I've got 1, 2, 3, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So they actually beat me 4-3, and the game is over. So that's a quick example of how to play, just with 3 cards. That would probably take less than 10 minutes. A mini deck with 10 cards, maybe it's going to take you 20 minutes with 2 people. And this game is multiplayer. You can play it with 2 or more people. You can play it with any languages you want to. Players can challenge each other. If they think another person hasn't spoken their word correctly or pronounced it incorrectly or is just BSing, then they can challenge that player, look up the word. Whoever loses the challenge has to discard a card immediately, and then play can continue. And that gets really, really fun. I play with my girlfriend a lot, and her target language that she's studying is English, and that's my native language. And the target language that I'm learning is Mandarin Chinese, and that's her native language. So when we play each other, it's actually really difficult because we can call each other out if the pronunciation's not right, or the word is not right, or something's not spelled right. Sometimes these cards have little writing challenges. And it is really, really tough and really, really funny sometimes when we challenge each other and then look up the words and see who's actually right. So if you go to languagecardgames.com, you can subscribe in the footer of the website if you haven't already. And if you do that, I will send you a discount e-coupon for any game that I offer in the shop. And I offer free shipping to any location worldwide. And there's other games besides this one. This one's kind of an intermediate level game for people who are really familiar with card games. But there's some simpler ones too that function kind of like, say for example, Uno or Crazy Eights, something a little bit easier for children and families, something like that. That's also available. So it was a great pleasure to introduce this to you today, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you and other people can find your way back to my latest and greatest content. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I will be more than happy to discuss them with you. That's it for today's video, and I'll see you back here next time at Language Card Games. Bye-bye for now.